fly a kite up to the highest heights. Let's go fly a kite and send it soaring. Hello? Is anybody in there? Does anybody want to learn some poker? This is my impression of an American person doing an impression of an English person. We've got a little bit of Steffen Sontheimer, a little bit of Andrew Neeme, a little bit of Doug Polk. Three very well accomplished poker players and streamers. I don't actually know anything about Andrew Neeme, but I think he's a big poker streamer, so I imagine I have something to say about his content.
All right.
And the other two, they're very, very good poker players. So it'll at least be a very interesting clash of ideologies and techniques. Let's fucking go. We're starting off with a very easy looking hand. We got against a recreational player, probably a little aces 4-bet. We're going to be 4-betting this 100% of the time against a recreational player, 3-betting out the big blind. He ain't gonna have no 3-bet bluffs a large percentage of the time, assuming that he's a recreational player, because, oh, that's my friend. Because recreational players, when they're faced in a position, and this is pretty much the only reason that up until about 2 years ago, nobody 3-bet out the big blinds, maybe 3 years ago, is because when faced with the decision, do I want to, somebody opens hijack like we do here, and then you're facing the big blind with like 9-7 suited, ace-5 suited, you have the decision. I could actually just flat this. I could see a flop. I don't have to fold my hand if I get 4-bet. I could just fucking call. And that is everyone's thought process until the computer tells them to do something else. So almost always the strongest range is 3-betting from the big blind versus something that isn't the button or the small blind. Even big blind versus button for a decent percentage of people is really strong. So always going to be 4-betting our aces because his range is going to be extraordinarily value heavy. Small c-bet on the flop, and we get min raise. We're always going to be c-betting the small. I'd probably even go a little bit smaller. The reason for that is that if he does happen to have something like ace king, ace queen, we want him to stick around because he's dead. So I might even go something like 4.3 big blinds. Because if he does then have ace king specifically and probably ace queen, he's sticking around and they're absolutely dead. And if he does happen to have a jack or he has pocket queens, then we're just getting all of the money. So next question is, once we min raise it, that's where one slight disagreement with Steffen. I'd say that might be his kind of GTO style kicking in there. He has a size that he c-bets there. I think he sized down a little bit because the guy was shorter.
I think I'm even sizing down further in that or texture in that stack depth.
Which definitely shows that he's thinking about it. He's not just like snap doing his normal size, which I think is great. I think that's amazing. So the next question is, once we min raise, get your answers out in the chat, boys. What is this guy's range looking like? You don't need to give a quantitative answer if you don't want. You could give some kind of qualitative answer, like is it strong, is it weak, is it bluffy, is whatever it is. What kind of range is this guy likely to turn up with? Bear in mind, or you could just say what kind of hands you think he might turn up with. Bear in mind, this is a recreational player. If you're a professional poker player, you play against recreational players. It doesn't matter if they're playing 200, 500, or 100k buy-ins. They're recreational players. All right, we got some overpairs. We got some clubs. Jack X, 10-10, 9-9, flush draws. So here's my thought. King, king, queen, queen. I wouldn't put kings in there too much because I'd expect kings to shove pre. I wouldn't put flush draws in there too much because I'd expect them to shove instead of min raise. Because the thing about a flush draw is if you min raise and the other guy calls, you're then on the turn, which might be a brick, and you only have one more card to try and hit. So everyone always, and they should try and get all of the money in these kind of spots with the flush draws. So we've got nutted, weak, 8-8. Okay, so the range I would expect somebody to turn up here with is something that is trying to induce ace king. That's generally what this is what's happening here. Every now and again, it's going to be pocket jacks or pocket eights, more so jacks than eights. And then I'm going to expect to see some 9s, some 10s, some pocket queens, some ace-jack, hands like that. So we're obviously not folding, so we don't even need to think about the jacks and the 8s. We just have to be thinking, what is the best way to get value from his one pair hands, something like 10s or queens? What do we do? Guys, get your answers out in the chat, boys. Are we calling or are we shoving? 1 to call, 2 to shove, and there's only one good answer here. It's lucky that you guys are here to learn. Oh, it's painful to see, guys. It's painful to see. We just talked about it. Are you retarded? No, just calm down, Charlie. Calm down. They're only human. It's okay. They're only chat. The problem with calling is that he's just min raised, and I said it's probably to try and induce something like ace king. Very, very infrequently will you find somebody that's min raising to just fold. You know, if he's min raising pocket 10s or pocket queens here, he's not gonna just fucking fold. It's very unlikely. And the problem with calling is, if the turn happens to be a king, if the turn happens to be an ace, if the turn happens to be a queen and he has pocket 10s, or if he has pocket queens, then we're suddenly not getting his stack. We're not getting the extra 40 big blinds. So I'm always shoving here. I would say that this is one of the only times where I would really, not one of the only times, but this is an extraordinarily important time to really think about your timing versus a recreational player. So if you snap shove here, well, suddenly you don't look very much like ace king to a recreational player, because it just looks like, oh, I'm all in, I got, let's fucking go. Whereas if you tank shove, if you take an extra, I might even go like 15 seconds into my time bank here, assuming that I haven't put too much of a short delay on my stream like a fucking idiot, like I often do. If you tank shove, it can very much look like you've been induced by the small sizing and you've thrown your ace king chips into the middle. So I'm going for the tank shove here. Just click in Fat Sushi Poker, I think might be the worst option. I think that might look the absolute strongest. If I had ace king here, I might call, I might click it. I might just fucking min raise. I'm not sure about it.
The classic min raise. And here I don't
Let's see what Steffen
like
does.
Ace, king, whatever with the club could be a min raise.
One nice thing about trying to set a good example of ethics in the poker community is that not using a HUD, it kneecaps me, because now I don't have everyone's fucking stats. I miss having people's stats, but I do not miss having to fucking hold down control and move around the poker tracker thing so it like gets out the way of the bet, then you see where they're from, and then that to me looks like a fucking nightmare, because I've lived it, guys. Just so you know, I'm not judging anyone for using HUDs, but I think they're pretty unethical. When you're playing against recreational players that don't even know that HUDs exist, and you just know how much they're check raising turns, it's pretty insane.
Ace and then fold here, but this is not happening. He has queens, maybe he has jacks, he can have whatever, a flush draw, so I prefer to get it in here. I call with the aces with the club, not expecting.
All right, so that pretty much same analysis. The one difference there, let's replay that for a second. Yeah, 10s, very, very good readers.
Flush draw, so I prefer to get it in here. I call with the aces with the club.
Now, he says, I call with the aces with the club. Fascinating statement here. Guys, tell me why that's not a very good idea. Tell me what's the logical inconsistency here with Steffen's play. Again, Steffen's one of the best players in the world. I'm not going to be calling him a bad poker player, even if you hold a gun to my head and say it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say. What is the issue here with calling the ace of clubs but shoving without the club? No. It's not that. Guys, here's such an important statement. And this is kind of one of my big things in the poker world, is that people will narrow and hone down on one factor and one factor alone when making their decision, when it's actually a bigger multivariate analysis that you need to be taking into account. So I'm definitely open to a solver saying that when you have aces with the club here, you want to be calling. But we're not playing against another player that's playing GTO. We're playing against another player that just isn't fucking folded. So having the ace of clubs or not having the ace of clubs is so irrelevant in this kind of spot. It's so irrelevant. Like, yeah, okay, you're blocking him having some flush draws. Yeah, maybe you have some turns that you're still a lot happier on, but it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Way too much credit to blockers. Thank you very much, Aitor Kenito. It really is this kind of insanity, and he's not an insane person, but the poker world in general having this mass formation psychosis, you could even say, about blockers, about making your strategy in a situation that's never going to come up again against the same person, so he's never going to be able to exploit you, and making a lower EV play based on blockers. And it is just lower EV. You know, we went through his range. Steffen had a slightly different range analysis. He put more flush draws in. I really don't think there's many flush draws when they min raise. But it's, you know, we have relatively similar range analysis, and none of the hands that he listed were going to be folding. So why do anything but shove? For me, that really is a misstep.
Not expect any folds here, so it's just a king could...
He even said it. He even said that he's not expecting any folds. So why on earth would you call with the aces with the ace of clubs? I would probably bet money that if I spoke to Steffen about it, he would change his mind on this. He might have just said that out of habit because he plays high stakes so much.
Kill my action. That's mainly what's going on here. Oh, there we have the king.
So yeah, king comes out.
In there
so the exact reason for shoving comes out on the turn. That if he does have something like tens or something like queens, and the king comes on the turn, or the ace comes on the turn, then we lose action.
Well, there we have the king, so yeah, getting in there was pretty important. Well, there we Zoom 500 streams from Austria. I don't know what the big difference is in streaming Zoom 200 or Zoom 500, it's mainly even same people. But I guess when I'm in Austria, just flying in there for a week, I won't do streams.
Zoom 200 does have quite a few worse regs, I'll say that.
I will then focus on playing the best tables and highest stakes I can find to get some volume in there. Here are those trips.
So I think we see bet very small. Yeah, we see bet 25% on the flop. I like the size. I think that my whole strategy here would be based on a couple of things. I want him to try and bluff raise and represent a 6. And if you do smaller against a recreational player, they're much more likely to do that. And secondly, I want him to call all of his ace highs. Because there isn't actually too much that we can get value from here. It's not like the board is 6-6 king, where we can just try and target all of his king x. Board 6-6-3. Even if he has ace 3, the best 3x that there is, he ain't going to be giving us many chips at all. So what we want to be doing is we want to be focusing on other parts of his range. And saying, okay, he has all of his ace deuce, ace 4, ace 5, ace 7, ace 8, ace 9, ace 10, ace jack, ace queen probably. Maybe some ace king if he flats that. And we can go a size that all of those will call. And then, you know, his flush draws and straight draws might decide to raise, might decide to call as well. And then maybe they'll even hit something on the turn so we can get more value from it. So really be trying to think in these kind of situations, in many situations, what is your opponent going to be doing with ace high? It's such a big factor, and it's one of those things that still is very exploitable, even up to the highest stakes that you can play. Because people have this thing in their mind where they just play the ace highs the same no matter what. So they have like a million fucking combos. They have unlimited combos of ace highs. And if you can manipulate the way that a person plays based on that, it honestly, in so many spots like this one, it's absolutely printing. Even if you have something like Jack 10 here, you know, we'll zoom in on the board for a second. So even if you had something like Jack 10 on the flop here, pretend the Jack's not there. You could go a size that his ace highs and maybe some of his king queens are going to be calling on the flop, and then go a size on the turn that they're all going to be folding. So you can actually almost value bet the flop with a bunch of bluffs here. Because you know that he's going to be folding such a large percentage of his range on the turn.
Here are those trips 6s, so it is possible to flop trips at least, that's good. Here are those trips 6s, so it is possible to flop trips at least.
So sizing on the turn, definitely good in my opinion. We won't speak about it now because I think the river decision looks a lot more interesting. Okay, so what are we doing? Just give me some answers. Obviously you can check. So 1 to check, 2 to bet, and if you're betting, how much are you betting? Get your answers out in the chat, boys. Guys, if you're gonna say big bet, you got to tell me how big that is. Is that 2/3? Is that 2x pot? Big can mean a lot of things. I'm actually going to check the timing from the other guy.
Here are those trips 6s, so it is possible to flop trips at least. That's good.
So that it's worth noting that the guy calls pretty fucking quickly. Should we bet a bit lower the side with the flush coming in? Definitely it's not as ideal with the flush coming in on the turn. However, the fact that the recreational player decided to pretty much snap call the turn means that he has a lot fewer flushes than he might otherwise. A flush, even if it wants to trap the turn, very often will consider raising in this kind of spot because there's so much to get value from. So we've got some answers out in the chat. I'm not going to say what I think is correct yet. What are the kinds of hands? There's actually pretty much only one type of hand that we want to be trying to get value from here. What is the hand type? 2 pair, 8-8, ace of spades X, ace of spades and X, ace X, ace of spades X, ace of spades. Guys, you're crushing it. You are annihilating it. Apart from the guy that said 8s and the guy that said 2 pair, no offense. Ace of clubs, just throwing it out there. Fuck it. Ace jack and definitely ace jack in there, worth thinking about. But pretty much the entirety of the things that we're trying to get value from here, ace of spades and some other card. And it's actually a pretty decent proportion of his range. It's not that specific by the time he check calls the turn here, and especially when he snap calls the turn. So he has ace deuce with the ace of spades, ace 4 with the ace of spades, I guess ace 3 with the ace of spades as well, ace 5, ace 7, ace 8, ace 9, ace 10, ace jack, ace queen. Probably not ace king. So many hands, ace X with the ace of spades. So now we've got that. And guys, remember, if you want to be thinking about how to value bet, think always, what is my opponent's range and what can I get called by? And how much can I bet they'll get called by? What is the biggest amount that I can bet that I will properly get a call from, or I'll definitely get a call from? You know, you have to kind of multiply it by the probability that it's going to call. So, how much do you think we can extract? Let's pretend he's got ace 10 with the ace of spades. How much do you think we can extract on the river? Maximum. What's the biggest number? You know, you don't want to go too big. You don't want to tickle his balls too hard. You know, he might think something's up. It's a flushy board. You might think we have a bigger ace. You never know. But maybe you do want to go too big. Maybe you want to look really bluffy. I don't know. 75%, 40%, 2x pot, half pot, 16 BB, 0.9 to 1.5 exits. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to give a range of answers because in poker, you only get to choose one. If I could give like a spread bet of answers in a poker hand, that'd be an interesting game. It'd be a very interesting game. Overbet. I think my answers... Let me think about it. I think my answer is going to be something like 25 big blinds. 25 big blinds. That's my intuition. And guys, whatever Steffen hit, and I guarantee he's thinking very similar things. It's a very, very simple spot for a good pro. Whatever he comes up with, that's going to be his intuition. Whatever I come up with, that's going to be my intuition. Whatever you come up with, that's going to be your intuition. So I have absolutely no fucking idea who's right. Personally, as an expert in exploiting recreational players, I would say around 25. But if the answer happened to be 16, if the answer happened to be 16, seems a bit small, but like maybe even 16, maybe even 15. If the answer happened to be fucking 40, I'm not going to be the person that tells you that ain't true. Just intuitively, something in me that's played millions of hands against recreational players and this spot coming up a bunch of times in different variations, I'm saying about 25. Let's see what Steffen does.
The flush board is not great. We got the snap call. Snap call, he has all kinds of ace of spades, hopefully.
There we go. He noticed that there was a snap call and a snap call, and his brain instantly goes ace of spades.
With his 53 BPIP, so it's way more likely as an offsuit hand that includes the ace of spades.
All right, so this is kind of cheating, in my opinion, having this HUD against a recreational player. I don't like it. We don't know if this guy knows if HUDs exist or not, and imagine he doesn't know that HUDs exist. It's pretty brutal if you found out after you've lost fucking loads of money against one of the best players in the world. Imagine if you found out after you've lost $10,000. Oh wow, he had loads of statistics on me that I didn't even know you were allowed to have. It's pretty fucking wild in my opinion. and I'm just saying, one more point on this. We'll get to the poker in a second. One more point. If it were the other way around, and the recreational players were getting that kind of advantage on the pros for whatever reason, I guarantee the pros would be up in arms about it, saying, definitely need, if people could lose 10k and definitely give a shit, definitely need to change these rules. It's so unfair on us professionals. I've got to be making a living and these people are cheating against me. You know if the incentive structure were in that direction. And if you want to be an ethical person, you can't just be thinking about your own world in a vacuum. You got to be thinking about what's fair for absolutely everybody. 10% to induce. Don't like it.
It's then a flush. So we have a very clear value back.
Oh, too small.
So he has some flushes, and I'm just attacking that, sizing up a little.
He's gone exactly pot. I like it. I would have gone bigger myself. I don't think the people are calling like ace-10 with the ace of spades on the turn to folds to slide over.
I don't care about
whatever.
being balanced at all.
He might be right.
53,
oh,
attacking that, sizing up a little. I don't care about being balanced at all.
Oh, that feels good. Oh, it feels nice. Can we just play that one more time?
I'm just attacking that, sizing up a little. I don't care about being balanced at all.
Oh, it feels so good.
Oh my god! Wow!
Oh, hearing a player that's good at poker say that. Oh my god, guys. I'm gonna need to take a little break here. I've just made a mess. I've made a mess all over my clothes, and that's humiliating. But let's just play the video.
Here against a 53-4 guy, get the call.
Do we get the snap call?
Here against a 53-4
it's pretty
guy.
Pretty quick.
Get the call.
If we're playing a 53-4 guy, you can definitely go bigger. By the way, they're the kind of people that are stations more often than not.
And he had exactly what I was talking about. He had the ace of spades with
got him, boys.
So it's just like, was not too tough to read people on hands here when you know, okay, he has all offsuits aces probably, and this is how he plays just all of them. That's just a hell lot of combos. Worrying about 4-bets though, this is obviously pretty much 100% flat against 4-bets here. But
I was about to pause it and say what should we do here, but yeah, you're just always flatting this. It's a bit too it's too good to fold and it's too bad to shove, so you're always flatting. If you're up against somebody that doesn't 4-bet bluff, this could be coming close to a fold, but pretty much always flatting. Maybe even if he has just like, like a 10% of the bluffs that he's meant to.
Tighter players, 2017. I marked him green not because he's a fish, but for another reason.
What's up, Zombie Adventures? Yeah, I saw that video. Someone showed us.
Definitely 4-bet.
Suited ace queen shove. No, you'd actually prefer to flat ace queen suited than you would ace queen off here, because you get more hands where you flop a flush draw, and with a 1.8 SPR or whatever it is, you get to just fucking it's a dream spot.
Bluffing as well, so reads are not strong enough to just randomly overfold ace queen off against a 4-bet. This seems a little dangerous.
All right, guys, we have 3 options here: 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. What are you doing? We got fold, fold, fold. If you have reads, shove. What kind of reads are you thinking about? 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. Guys, can we do the 1, 2, 3 thing? Oh, wait, 2's cool. This is why I'm getting confused. All right, 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. All right, so most people are calling. I got a little bit worried there. I just confused myself. Okay, perfect. All right, everyone's calling. I don't see an argument for anything but call here. We are beating some of his bluffs and might be able to showdown if he just has some kind of air. And yeah, I don't see any argument for raising here. He can definitely have some king X. He can definitely have some jack X. He can definitely have aces, and he won't even fold something like queens if we do raise. So.
Definitely calling here, but it's always like the super strong sizings where they really size down. But
could be dead. But you can't just be thinking in the world of what if I'm dead. You have to be thinking about his entire range and how you play against it. Would you ever raise a hand here? I would. Maybe if I had something like 10-9, would be an interesting one to raise. Maybe some like 8-9 of diamonds or something like that. Raise and then do some funky things on some turns.
Quite some jack-X.
Solver folded mostly. No way. I don't believe it.
So
I don't believe
I
it.
feel good, again, as always, in that kind of pool.
Did you just solve it, or have you already watched it?
And yeah, I don't expect him to have pockets too often. Like maybe pocket 10s, that's okay. But not 9s, 8s, 7s, so I do not need to try to fold them out or anything. I'm checking down, hoping to take it down on the river to just win.
Alright, so yeah, we're definitely following this. I don't think there's too much to say. We're just trying to take our ace queen to showdown here.
Showdown. And since I'm...
But he's 20. Yeah, he didn't see that as big as 20%, I don't think. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you just can't fold that against that size. So he checks the river. What are we doing? 1 to check, 2 to bet. And if you're betting, how much you betting? Get your answers out in the chat, boys. He did check, right?
Splitting with...
Yeah. 1 to check, 2 to bet. All right, we got 10% shove. So we're still cool for 10-9 suited. I assume you mean 10-9 with the backdoor flush draw, not 10-9 of clubs. It's a very mixed amount here. We've got 14 big blinds to get value from 10s. If we bet 14 bigs, I don't think 10s is going to be calling. I don't even know if queens is going to be calling. The only two options here, in my opinion, would be shove or check. And shove seems like a kind of crazy play. The idea for shove is to try and get folds from his ace-X. So if you want to value bet, you're pretty much only targeting his king-X. Let's say he's 4-bet something like king-4 suited. I don't know if it's going to be calling. You know, it's very hard for us to be turning up with pretty much any bluffs here. You know, a lot of the hands that we would be wanting to bluff here, you know, fucking like 8-9 of diamonds, probably end up just betting the turn themselves. So it's very hard for us to come up with a bluff here. You know, our ace 10 and ace queens hit, a queen 10's hit. What are our bluffs going to be? We've got to get very, very creative to find bluffs. I don't know if we can even bet a size that king X will find. Maybe if we bet fucking tiny. So the downside to betting is that we now lose more if he does have something like pocket kings, which could definitely play it this way, and pocket jacks, which could definitely play it this way as well. Or king, I don't know if he 4-bets king jack ever. Maybe king jack off, I'm not sure. Maybe even pocket aces. So there are definitely some traps in his range here. So this is the reason that I don't think shoving's any good. I don't think betting small is any good because, you know, getting shoved on would suck, and I don't know if he's going to call much king X. So I think the only option left by method of elimination is to check.
With any ace, so I need him to call a random king. I don't see that happening against a kind of tighter player. I'm just checking back that river top pair here. I see him trap some boats, and yeah, that's the pocket tens, the one hand we were talking about. That is still, it was not a bluff apparently. They have some bluffs. They are doing some okay, good bluff catches.
Tim Kenyon's a good player.
So I need to play like somewhat.
All right, so we're always going to be calling this this 3-bet. I think against absolutely everybody we're going to be calling this. So it doesn't matter if he's a good player, if he's a bad player, if he's a tie player, if he's an aggro player. You'd actually almost rather call it against a tie player because he's going to have more just fucking like ace kings and whatnot that we get to win against instead of all of the fucking, you know, like king jack suiteds and shit like that. But, you know, we're always going to be calling this.
Somewhat good poker. And yeah, then I have like some rare colors I use for like special things. Like I won't tell you what I actually think about that guy. That's like a very special thing.
Damn, I know the feeling. I know the feeling of streaming, having a label for someone and being like, oh, this is embarrassing. For a while, I didn't tell people what my labels meant, and I ended up being less offensive on stream than I definitely would be if I was sitting there with my friend.
Right here, Tim Kenyon.
So we got a half pot C bet. What are we doing, boys? 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. Get your answers out in the chat. Raise at a frequency. I don't know if I'm ever raising this at any frequency. It'd be an interesting hand to do it with. I'm open to it being legit, to be honest. You know, making him call some ace kings, getting some folds, because our hand needs protection. We might be able to barrel on some like 4x. We might be able to turn a set. You know what? The more I think about it, the more I'm open to raising at some frequency. I'm open to it. Whoever said that, I'm gonna give you a shout out there. Give me all that GTO says raise it at frequency. Well, fair enough, my friend. Fair enough. If a solver told you to do it, I take back many of your kudos. But if you remember that the solver told you to do it, then actually I'll give you some kudos back. But generally here, I'm just going to be calling. If he starts going a little bit bigger than this, I think we start folding threes. I wouldn't be surprised if the solver fucking mixes it here. And this is the kind of spot that you're not going to get too many good reads. This guy's going to be using this size with probably his entire betting. I wouldn't be surprised if he's literally only using one size to c-bet on this kind of board in this kind of spot. So reads are going to be really difficult, and I'm just going to be playing some normal poker here and just calling. But I wouldn't be surprised if raising's fine. I wouldn't be surprised if folding's fine. So it all seems pretty close.
Is definitely trying to play, so we try to play as well and not overfold that flop. Half pot is a decent size he's using there. I have a random pick.
All right, he's checked on the turn, guys. 1 to check, 2 to bet, and if we're betting, how much are we betting? Get your answers out in the chat. I'm honestly torn. I'm torn. I could definitely see an argument for betting small. I could definitely see an argument for checking. The normal way to play is to check. The normal way to play is to check, for sure. But if you wanted to start building a range that's, I don't know, this sounds pretty GTO. Guys, the amount of times I've recently read conspiracy theories about me saying that I'm just like super studied up on these solvers. Because every now and again I'll talk about constructing a range, or I'll talk about range advantage or shit like that. The amount of times I've heard, there's no way this Charlie could beat 500 Zoom if he hasn't studied solvers. The conspiracy theories are just put your tinfoil hats back on and go away. I don't like it anymore. I don't like the idea that I would lie to my audience, my gullible audience, and make loads of money off this exploitative style of poker. No, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice that you guys are gullible enough to buy into my HBO bollocks. I've got to be honest. You guys just lap up anything. Lap up fucking anything. It's gullible that you think I have a charity. It's gullible that you think I have a girlfriend, and that I don't just spend my entire life just sitting in my room running Sims on my supercomputer. But even if I tell you the truth now, I know that you aren't gonna believe me. You gullible Twitch chat. It's beautiful. I can just lie, and nobody's gonna see through my facade. If I can convince you guys I've got a girlfriend, I can convince you of anything. So yeah, I could see an argument for checking. I could see an argument for betting small. The point in betting small here is that we do have all of our 8-9 if we don't raise a flop. We have, some 2 pairs. We have all the sets. We have 10s. We have 7s, 6s, 5s. We have 8-9 some frequency. We have 7-8. We have 6-7, 5-7 suited. We have a bunch of nutted hands. So he's going to be checking a lot of hands on the turn here. He'll be betting some of his overpairs, checking some of his overpairs, checking some of his 10x, hands like that. And then loads of his like ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack, they're going to be checking as well. So I could see an argument, king, queen, king, jack. I can see an argument for betting small to deny equity with these kind of hands against the king jacks of the world. And then we'll have some hands that are just going to be bet calling. We'll have some hands that are going to be bet folding, meaning that we bet and we fold to a raise, or bet and call a raise. And this would be one of the hands you could put in the bet fold strategy. That being said, checking is completely fine. We've got some equity. Maybe we hit a 4. Never know. Don't know about it. Maybe we get some value out of some stuff. Maybe we lose a ton of value and have an 8. He's checking a bunch of his 8x on the turn here. So many factors. Your guess is as good as mine. Well, it's probably not. Your guess at least might be correct. So I think that I would probably lean towards betting small here, but I can definitely see an argument for checking.
Here of 3s, which is obviously not great. I can start betting some. I'm not sure about that hand though.
It's nice to see other good players find a complicated spot that I'm unsure about, and also be unsure about it. It's very affirming.
If I bet now river a 4, he has quite some 8x, so my upside is not too big. I can fold out his ear, obviously, but...
His ear?
Upside is not too big. I can fold out his ear, obviously, but...
That was nice. I love his accent.
He has like king 9 suited, stuff like that. He has king jack of clubs. So I keep it in, and now if he bets, I have a random catcher. If he checks, I'm pretty much always winning.
I don't know about if he checks, I'm pretty much always winning. You know, he's got some 6x in there. He's got some 5x in there. And he might decide to bluff a bunch of his overcards. Anyway, let's decide, guys. What are we doing? He probably has some 7x in there as well. Anyway, are we going to be 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to shove? I'm not giving you the min raise option. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it. It'd be pretty boss. And that would be really stupid. You'd be repping fucking pocket deuces. A badly rep pocket deuces at that. So I'm not even giving you... when we're putting this input into the solver, I'm not even giving you min raise. All right, 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to shove. So the question is, and I think this is a spot where I'd start going a lot more exploit. The question is, what size does he go with his bluffs and what size does he go with his value? This size, to me, feels very much like pocket 9s or a 10 or like ace 7 suited or something like this. I don't know if he 3-bets ace 7. I should probably learn what other people 3-bet. It feels like a very like one pairy kind of like not jacks plus kind of hand. Not even ace 10 plus kind of hand. Maybe like king 10 from maybe something like king 7 to king 10, that kind of range of hands, or a bluff. And the question is, if he had a bluff here, would he decide to go bigger to try and fold us off the exact kind of hands that we have, like, you know, 7, 8, 3s, something like that? I would actually expect him to probably go a bit bigger. And he bet pretty quick, right?
About his ear, obviously, but...
His ear?
And he has like king 9 suited, stuff like that. He has king jack of clubs. So I keep it in, and now if he bets, I have a random catcher.
It wasn't that quick. I take that. It wasn't that quick at all. So he can definitely be balanced here, but my read would be that his bluffs would often go bigger to try and rep something like aces. That would be my read, and to try and make us fold some hands like the 1 pairs, you know, the 5-4 suiteds and whatnot. So I'd probably fold him. I'd probably fold. Let's see what you guys said. A mixture between call and fold, a couple of raises. Raising here would be abysmal. It'd be really bad.
Oh yeah, that sucks because actually, like on that 7 turn, he raises. He checks quite some strong hands because it's just such a good card for me. Though I'm unblocking all his bluffs, right? Not blocking value either. I don't have a read, so I will.
It's interesting that he's kind of resorting to his GTO here, and when he's unsure, and I'm resorting to my exploit when I feel like I have reads. So there's definitely 2 different styles of how one would go about playing 200 Zoom. Definitely both have merits to them. So he's unblocking all of his bluffs. You're also unblocking all of his value, so I don't know about that. But I guess it's more important you're unblocking his bluffs when you're bluff catching. In this kind of spot specifically, where it's going to be hard to be blocking too much of his value. So what are his bluffs going to be? It's going to be a lot of like you say, like king 9s, king jacks, king queens, hands like that. I don't know if it ever change if it ever turns something like ace 9 suited into a bluff here on the river. So yeah, I can see an argument for calling because you're unblockable his bluffs, but from my exploit position, I'm folding.
We'll catch that sometimes.
Would I call ace queen it? I honestly think I'd fold all of my bluff catchers, and you know, I'd fold even something like 7-8. It'd be hard to fold 7-8, but I'd be open to folding 7-8, and then 5-4 and fucking ace 6 suited and all the hands that I have that are bluff catchers. Just make a very, very exploit fold here, and then just play all the hands that beat his value hands. I just really feel like people would underbluff using this size, but this guy's a very fucking good player, so it's hard to be super sure on that, but that's just personally what I would do.
Enough for me for a catch this time.
Did he roll? Yeah, I think he rolled. He rolled his RNG. If anyone doesn't know what that is, he got a random number generator, which I also don't think is super ethical, but I'm not going to die on that hill. I don't think we should have any in-game assistance. But that being said, you could just randomize with the fucking roll of the die next to you. So, whatever. Don't care.
I think that number is good enough for me for a catch this time. Yeah.
RNG's okay, yeah. Honestly, that's one of the things. The RNG one is one of the things where I'm just like, it's so slight that I just don't care. But honestly, I think people should just randomize themselves. I think I'm kind of Puritan in that sense. I think that if you want to randomize, just randomize doing something you want.
Yeah. King 10, right? That's fine. Half pot. That's like exactly what he reps.
If you use RNG, you have no clue what frequency. Yeah, but the thing is, if you use a HUD and you don't know how to use a HUD, then you're not making any money. But if you know how to use a HUD, you're making more money off people that don't have HUDs than you should. So it's not about whether or not people are making money, it's whether or not they can make money from it, or whether or not they can get an edge that somebody else isn't going to have. But RNG, something like that, whatever, you do you.
It's not right against the player in yellow. I would just fold 100% there.
The problem with an RNG, we'll get back into poker in a second. The problem with an RNG is it takes out some of that human element. You can be in a spot in a final table and you're like, shit, I don't know whether I'm going to call or fold. And I'm going to put 20% call in. And it makes it very robotic and takes out the psychology of like, I don't know if this time I should fold or this time I should call. That being said, if somebody, had a fucking dice in front of them, or somebody used like a poker chip that they had and randomized like that, it's not too much different, so whatever.
Because no way they find enough bluffs. Maybe still
anyone could get a HUD,
right? But
not people that don't know HUDs exist. Not people that are sitting there at home, like True Geordie, for instance. The first probably like 30 sessions he played, he didn't know that HUDs exist, and he played for thousands of dollars. And when I told him, he was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cheaty." And if the site, as soon as you signed up, put this big thing in saying, "By the way, people on this site are using a heads-up display. Here's where you can buy one. Here's where you can use one. Here's a free one. We've integrated it into the software." Whatever it is, yeah, you agree, fair enough. Then I'd be completely fine with it. But the problem is that they don't do that. So there are a bunch of recreational players out there playing for some amount of money that don't know that HUDs exist. And then you have people like Steffen, having their fucking 3-bet percentage, and they don't know that that's even a thing.
Impression and the stats.
I like what GG's done with it.
Tell me, okay, he might be loose enough, and then it was very, very easy to actually overbluff that spot. He might have the impression and the stats, and they find enough bluffs. Maybe still he doesn't, right? But now I have the impression and the stats and everything that tell me, okay, he might be loose enough, and then it was very, very easy to actually overbluff that spot. And he starts off with loose enough ranges. So this here is a nicer spot. I did see that the flop faced a small raise. He calls...
I like that he's not doing the very common streamer thing where he makes a call, is wrong, and then says, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have called, but I don't know about that." I think that it's very easy to run into that kind of mindset. But if he thinks he made a good call based on the strat and he's sticking with that read even after he sees he was beat, I really appreciate that. It's not like getting a live read where you're like, "Oh, my live read was completely off." It's just like when you call, and this is something that you need to know, when you call, and I actually heard this from Doug firstly, and I already knew it intuitively, but to hear it just said was actually really helpful. It's like, when you call, you're meant to lose most of the time. Why are you hiding your nibs? They're for on Twitch mails now. Good to know. I didn't know that.
Check.
Not hiding anything. You can see my nibs if you want.
He probably has a 10. I have the nuts, and I can do blocker bluffs here, so this is the
So if this is a reg, I love this sizing. If it's a recreational player, I hate it.
only sizing I'm using. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my Twitch highlights. If you like those videos, make sure.
Thank you for saying I have amazing nipples.
Subscribe to
The stream got weird,
channel.
but I'll take it.
Let's see some more cool hacks.
I'm not subscribed.
You know, 25 to
I'll-
50.
I'll
what
subscribe.
Is the best.
I'll
It's
subscribe.
all the same. Like,
I feel bad for not
you
subscribing.
know, it's like EV is very, very, very close. If we think about playing perfectly, it's really just what you feel comfortable with. Some players like to play tight ranges. Some players like to be a little looser and navigate their way through post flop. It's important that you know your range, and every open raise sizing comes with a certain range. It's like if you play 3x, you have to stay tighter, right? If you play very small, you have to open raise a little more. So this is, but it's really up to you. There's no better or worse, really, if it's not like 3.5xing.
Agreed.
This guy actually here is quite loose, so we cannot overfold. But against that big sizing, we need to adjust to the sizing. And Queen 10 suited should be
very
pretty
close.
damn close.
Yeah.
I prefer to have a king or an ace for my 4-bets.
Yeah.
This is the guy that we 4-bet.
I'm usually calling this, but at the same time, it's you know, there's some argument for 4-bet, and there's some argument for fold.
I will do that call here, and seems like he just hit trip kings that we were looking for, or are looking for the whole.
All right, guys, want to fold? Just tell me what you want to do. Tell me what you would do in this spot, not what Steffen's gonna do, not what I would do, not what you think I want you to think. What would you do? 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. Get your opinions out in the chat, boys. Wait, so we got fold, 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 call, 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 fold, call, fold, call, fold, call, call, fold, call. Barely any raises. I like the. Actually, I don't know if I like no raising. I'd actually be tempted to raise it. So the solver's going to tell you to call. Steffen, I'm almost certain is going to be calling. The problem is, you just end up with so many fucking floats on these boards. You have all your fucking Jack 10 suiteds of the 3 suits, and then the Queen 10s, and the Ace Queens, and the Ace Jacks. I don't know what the solver would say. My experience against GTO players is like, and here's a little strat. If you're sitting here with Ace King, or Pocket Kings, or something like that, or even Aces, you c-bet small, check turn. Always. Just always in these kind of spots. It's one of the kind of anti-GTO strats. I don't know what GTO says to do, but you c-bet small, getting all of their floats, because they can't fold all their fucking like 6, 7 of hearts. When you c-bet even smaller than this, you c-bet just fucking like 4 big blinds, like just milking it. And then just check turn. And they might check back to bluff some rivers, but you check river. And you give them a shot. And you might lose some value against some hands, but very often they'll end up betting large majority of the range. And then you just get to check raise river and catch some of their bluffs. Or you get to check call and catch some of their stack offs. So this is a really common thread that you'll see against these GTO players. Let's say you 3-bet like pocket 10s, button versus under the gun in 6 max cash games. They call, it comes like 10-4-3 rainbow. C-bet against a GTO player, maybe something like 25%. You know, keeping in their ace kings or ace queens, but also keeping in some of their backdoor king jack suiteds and king queen suiteds. Oh, very interesting. And then check back turn very often, and then get some. Maybe this isn't the best example. Maybe if you're out of position, it's better. Anyway, stuff like that. You can get a lot of value from just getting their floats to call. I should have come up with a better example there. My bad.
Whole session. So what I double checked is here just his big blind. He likes 3-betting from the big blind. Some people are missing that.
See, it makes me miss having a HUD seeing this, but it's not right, is it? It's not right.
So he has quite something. We play normal. So Queen 10 of clubs.
If you raise your rep and a king, you never raise a king. Why not? I'll raise a fucking king if I want. Might as well.
The float here with our backdoor straight, backdoor flush draw. Unfortunately, not blocking King 10 and King Queen suited.
So he calls.
That he
A read is correct.
Quite some frequency as well.
If I'm the macro here, I'm checking probably my entire range. Maybe my entire range I'm checking on the turn. Maybe if I have a bluff like 7-8, I'm betting, or 6-7. But my entire showdown value range, including the nuts, I'm just checking turn.
And against his check, this could be, I mean, it's quite a high frequency.
All right, guys, what are we doing? 1 to check, 2 to bet. The problem is, and I'd feel very uncomfortable in this kind of situations, the problem is that you have so many bluffs in your range. The upside to betting it, you have to bet at some point. You basically just want to try and fold out when he has ace jack, ace queen. You know, those kind of hands. You gotta fold them out at some point. But then if he has something like queens, if he has something like nines, if he has something like a 5 somehow, if he 3-bets any of his 5x, which he probably does, he probably has some like fucking ace 5s, 6 5s, 4x as well then. You know, it's very hard to make people fold. But I'd probably just end up betting the turn and giving up river. I think that'd be my strat. I think I'd end up just, just like 25% turn, get him to fold all his ace-x, and then just give up river.
He stab, sometimes check back to bluff later. And yeah. Folding out some random ace highs.
Right. Sticking with 25%, we like it.
Equity when called. Obviously I can't value bet hitting a queen or a 10, but still sometimes winning, that's good.
You're hearing his voice, he doesn't like the spot. He's not happy with it. Yeah, look at that reaction. He's so unhappy with this spot.
Now
this is the problem. When somebody c-bets small and you just float all of these hands, I'd be very shocked if the solver isn't raising some flop. But whatever, I wouldn't be that shocked. The problem with a lot of GTO players is they end up in a lot of these spots with way too many bluffs. And then even if you have something like fucking, you know, some shitty 2-pair hand, then you can end up justifying some pretty wild calls in. If Goose shoves it. Anyway, so he checks to us. 1 to check, 2 to bet, and if we're betting, how much are we betting, boys? Get your answers out in the chat. All right, now I've kind of already said to everyone that checking is what I would do, so I'm seeing a lot of checks here. I'm not sure how many people would have said check if I hadn't already said it. Kudos for people going out on a limb. You bet 76.05. It's very specific, and I like it. Yeah, see, I'd make a very, very exploit check here. I imagine that Steffen's going to bet. Sizing-wise, I don't know if you can shove. You definitely want some shoves in there. I don't know if you can just shove all your bluffs. You probably can't. So you probably, in his mind, you probably want to be mixing between some shoves and some like 80%, something like that, to fold him out some 2-pairs. Put some of his 2-pairs in a rough spot. That's assuming that we're going to be value betting some like pocket jacks, hands like that. So perhaps we're not even going to be doing that. Perhaps it's just a shove. It depends. So the thing is, you got to be thinking about how you're balancing it. Are you gonna value bet pocket jacks from his perspective? I'm not balanced like this, but from his perspective, are you going to be value betting pocket jacks and pocket 10s? If so, we can start using quite a few bluffs like this and start going like 70%, 80%. You know, hands like that. And then we have to throw in some fucking king X to balance it one up. Maybe. Then are you going to be shoving? Of course you want to be shoving if you have something like pocket 5s, pocket 8s, pocket 4s. If we call flop with pocket 4s, which I assume we do, then we want to be having some shoves in there. So I would, if betting, I'd probably lean more towards a shove just to try and get him to fold all his shitty 2-pairs. But I wouldn't feel happy about it. I just really want to give up and move on to the next hand.
I don't want to have hearts, and yeah, I think that spot is actually fine.
Yeah, so the hearts thing is somewhat relevant. You know, he has ace jack and ace queen of hearts. I just don't think it's relevant enough to be making these kind of decisions on in 200. Maybe if you're playing the super high stakes where everyone's a lot better at poker, then you want to be making some more blocker-based decisions because you want to be creating some kind of balanced strategy. I just don't know if the macro from 200 Zoom is going to be good enough that we want to be basing our strategy here based on blockers. You know, I think that he's exploitable enough as a human being playing poker that we don't want to be making those kind of decisions when it's only a couple of combos, maybe 3 combos.
I do float some 6-7s as well. I can play like that. I have 5s, obviously. I have ace king sometimes. I have king queen suited all the time. It's a little nicer if we have a lookalike, but here it's not possible, so I'll go for that jam here.
Jamming feels a lot better than going any other size. The fact that he didn't consider any other size makes me think he might just be checking back something like jacks if he has it there, and 10s. but I'm not sure. I'd be curious to know if a very good GTO player would value bet Jackson tens.
Pretty much wrapping King X plus. I can't value jam queens here.
Also, the problem is that this is the kind of spot where somebody might take all of their fucking bluff catchers and just bluff catch. You know, there's an argument for bluff catching with pretty much fucking anything here. If he turns up with a 4, there's an argument because you don't block his bluffs. You know, if he turns up with something like pocket jacks, you know, you're near the top of his range. I can see a lot of people turn like just over calling because they have a bunch of reasons to do it. In reality, I imagine GTO would say, you know, you'd rather call something like pocket, like I don't know, like a 4x, like ace 4 suited, than you would want to call something like pocket 10s. But in reality, I don't know if people actually would. Yeah, I don't mind the shove. I just think it also just feels like you're gonna get called a lot. You know, you got the pocket queens in front of your name that show you played like 2 billion hands or whatever it is. You got the image of goose core that you're Steffen Sontheimer, and you're gonna be turning up with the right amount of bluffs here. If you're someone else, and this happens to me so much in poker, where I've been like, this is a great bluff spot if I'm anybody else. You know, if I'm playing in a high roller and somebody knows that I've got my image, you have no idea some of the hands that I've seen people call against me because they've just been like, it's Charlie's bluffing. Like, so I remember a few off the top of my head, and tell me if you want to hear them, because they were fucking insane hands where somebody would take like a GTO player stacking off in a 50k or 25k tournament, or a 10k, I can't remember what it was, some high roller with the literal worst combo that you could possibly have, like blocking all of my bluffs, only ace high, and just fucking makes the hero call against me because I'm me. And people around the table, like I remember Nick Petrangelo in this spot just looking at me and being like, what the fuck just happened after he left? And I was like, yeah, this is my career. It's literally people just stationing me down. And I imagine when Goose is playing 200 Zoom, it's going to be similar shit. Was he right? No, I just had the nuts. So much of my career is me battling myself of trying to only value bet and not bluff as much. It's very nuanced. There are some spots that you really can over bluff, but most spots I have to under bluff now and then pretend that I'm over bluffing.
So I expect him to never fold aces. So yeah, maybe my jam's actually not that great if I block queens and tens. But yeah, I was looking for the snap fold of ace queen, ace jack of hearts. This is the spots I don't like too much here these days, because it's like I have the feeling that people just, it's goose score that he will have the bluffs and then
exact same and
called. They do not do against anyone.
Let's just hear him repeat the words.
These days, because it's like I have the feeling that people just, it's goose score that he will have the bluffs and then make those kind of calls that they do not do against anyone else in the pool. So actually,
exactly my point. And I know the feeling. It's very painful sometimes to have to check behind. So he calls with ace 5. It's one of those hands that we expected to be in there. It's one of those hands that's probably a good bluff catcher. You know, he's blocking ace king, he's blocking pocket 5s, he's not blocking any of the bluffs. But how many hands would actually be in there? You know, how many of those hands would he actually turn up with that he decides that all of those things are true? You know, there might be a decent amount of them. So I'm not a big fan of the shove, but whatevs.
Those kind of calls that they do not do against anyone else in the pool. So actually this is, I mean, I still try to play somewhat okay, but this is just, I get ridiculous, not ridiculous, that's a fine call, but it's a losing call against pretty much any player in that pool, right? So that's kind of the part.
A losing call against pretty much any player in that pool. I don't know about that. People definitely under bluff in 200 Zoom, but in that specific spot, I don't know if they do. I would expect people to turn up with quite a few bluffs in that spot, just because of the small c-bet size on the flop. People float loads on the flop, and then 6-7 did get there. But yeah, no, it's still with all the jack tens and queen tens. I would expect there to be enough bluffs in that spot, but I'm unsure. It is one of the biggest annoyances when playing 200 Zoom. 500 it's changed a little bit, but still it's a thing that people just under bluff. You play high stakes tournaments, the highest stakes you can possibly play. People are under bluffing. Like there's no tomorrow.
I need to.
There are like 3 people that don't under bluff.
That players know my name, and just for that reason, it's like I have that feeling every single time someone starts going into the 20 or 10 second plus tank, they're not going to ever.
I know. I really relate to this feeling as well. And you'll see me a bunch when I did the 200 Zoom things. You'll see me a bunch just having to give up on a lot of my bluffs because as soon as they start tanking, that you just feel it. It's like, oh, they're actually they're gonna call, aren't they? Of course they're gonna call. So I'll really change my strategy based on perception.
About it, they think about it.
What do you think about exploit? 75% is bluff. Do you say they under bluff in high stakes or over bluff? Everyone under bluffs. There's like 3 people that don't under bluff. There's probably like 5 or 10 or something, but there's pretty much everyone under bluffs. 75% is a bluff. Jam value as well. I don't think I like it. I like the concept of, you know, taking some smaller sizes as bluffs and bigger sizes as value, but I think in that specific spot, the only chance we have to get him to fold fucking anything is to maybe not. You know, maybe if you go 75% and he's just there with jacks, he might just fucking throw it away. I don't know. Probably not. But it's a cool thought.
Call.
So Daniel.
It's like, why this year, I mean, it's a jam where I need more than 60% fold equity, I guess.
Yeah.
To make it plus CV, and just like I do not really see that. It's a fine jam, but yeah. Still, this is what I'm working on right now, especially off stream. I don't want to tell everyone how much I'm overfolding to people or bluffing or not.
I know the feeling.
It's really that kind of a problem that if first
shout out to Rum Cake, welcome to the Mushroom Kingdom, my friend.
No one ever would think about calling this jam against you.
Are we looking at the 8s?
Like I bet everything. And this year down here is a freaking weird action. We got
okay. So we got open, call, random player who's playing kind of normal stats that we shouldn't be able to see because HUDs shouldn't be able to tell us these things. Shoves. So I assume it's a recreational player or a guy misclicking. And this guy overshoves. What are we doing here? 1 to fold, 2 to call. So what you got? Get your answers out in the chat, boys. No, I'm always folding this. What hands are we calling in? What hands are we calling? Are we calling ace king suited? Are we calling queens? Are we calling kings? Yeah, so I'm folding ace king suited. Queens. I don't know. Queens is close. It really depends on how much we think this guy has misclicked. How much we think this guy thinks this guy's misclicked. Because in Tim Kenyon's spot, you probably should only be going with queens, kings, and aces. Maybe ace king suited. So I assume we just have to fold king. Fold. I don't know. It's close because queens just dominates this guy's range so much. You know, we expect to see ace king a lot, or we expect to see fucking like some completely random misclick. I think nipples are terms of service. Not these things. These are fucking useless parts of biology. There's no way that this can be against any rules. It's like showing my fucking appendix. It's so useless. They do nothing for me. Nothing. It's hard to misclick goal in. That's the thing. It's hard to misclick goal in, but when you're faced with multiple very unlikely scenarios, the unlikely ones become more likely. So it's relative to other things. I'm going with folding queens. But I'm not sure about it. Ace king is definitely a fold.
My open race, the call, we got a jam, and then we got a call against the jam. So my ace king is a very clear fold here.
Good to know.
I mean,
so we're talking ourselves into something here.
This is like super weird. Ace king versus
what's that?
Versus
tens. So this guy turns up with tens. Very strange, given that he's playing very normal stats. Ace king suited here was the one that I was unsure about him going with. I guess that he thinks that he's misclicking more often, or like at least some percentage. Because if he's misclicking even like 25% of the time, or if he's just going for it with fucking like banana hand because lols, then it makes some sense to go with ace king. But if you think he's got kind of like a normal shoving range, it doesn't make so much sense.
Tens. I'm not sure whether I need to get in there with ace king in Tim Kenyon's shoes. It's like never making money if you don't have it. Like, is that guy 100 BB jamming ace queen if he plays 25-19 so far? I'm not sure, but okay.
No, me neither. Okay, so what the fuck's happened here? We 3-bet? Why is the pot so big? Did we squeeze?
Roll of gamble, and I mean I can obviously still have it. So yeah, here called 4-bet pot against our friend with a pocket sixes there.
Oh, we called 4. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, don't know why that didn't come to me. Okay, so it goes open, probably from him, maybe from him, maybe from him, maybe from him. So one of these two guys opens. He 3-bets button. We 4-bet. I guess it doesn't matter too much where the guy opened from. We called 4-bet. Thanks for you guys working that out when I didn't. My bad. that was pretty stupid. We are pretty much always just going to be c-betting small on this board. There aren't too many hands that we're going to be checking. It's really nice kind of spot for us to have range c-bet here.
Start off betting. It's pretty much a brick board. Doesn't hit anything of that.
All right, guys. On the turn, 1 to check, 2 to bet. If we're betting, how much are we betting? So the idea is, what is his range? What are we going to do about it? His range is going to be a bunch of pocket pairs. Some 7x, some 8x. The 8x we pretty much just ignore, and the pocket 7s we just ignore because we're going to get stacked by them no matter what. Then he has some jack 10s, he has some 10-9s, he has some ace x, maybe like ace queen with queen of hearts, those kind of hands. Maybe even some, just something like ace queen off, ace jack off. And then he's got some flush draws, and he's got some other flush draws of spades and hearts. I'm not sure what's best. No idea. If we check, we're allowing a lot of his hands to check back and realize equity. Now, having the ace of hearts and the ace of spades makes this more of a check. I don't know if I'd make my decision based on that. In fact, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't. But GTO is very likely going to want you to check these kind of hands because now he doesn't have all the ace x of spades. So they're definitely going to be checking back. The ace x of hearts, which is definitely going to be checking back. I think I'm going to lean towards a bet just because I think so many of his hands will end up checking back and then bluffing rivers. Just from like a kind of exploit perspective here. And then we want to stack pocket sixes. So the idea, then the question is, how much do we bet? Do we want to shove or do we want to bet small? I'm actually tempted to just shove, honestly. It might be a complete punt to shove. It might be a complete punt. But we get him to call all his pairs, definitely. If he has something like, I don't know what else he calls actually. It might be a punt to shove. I just can't think of any good size. What did you guys come up with? I think I'm leaning. Let me meditate. I'm leaning towards bet small. I think there's still enough hands like 10-9 that we just have in pretty dire shape. Hands that might decide to shove the turn themselves. Something like 10-9 of spades. Maybe something like jack 10 of spades. And then we obviously get to call off and have good equity against that. I don't know though. This is all kind of like feeble reasons. It's all really close. I'm going to say that. This isn't something that we should be analyzing too much. It's all very, very close. If somebody tells you that they know what the right answer is, 100% certain, they have no idea how to play poker. Because there's way too many factors to be able to decide this.
Both flushes. I can keep betting small. I can start checking. It's both fine. I think against him, I just prefer to keep betting.
So interesting. He didn't consider shoving, which is definitely worth noting. I can see why. I can see it. I can see the argument for shoves being a punt. It just feels like everything's kind of okay. You know, everything's plus EV. Whatever you do is going to be fine. Against this, I don't know what it means by against this kind of player. Maybe he thinks he's more stationary. Maybe he thinks he's less bluffy, something like that. And on the river, all right, 1 to check, 2 to bet. Get your answers out in the chat. I'm only giving you shove. I'm only giving you shove. I'm not letting you be STI this one. Unfortunately for you, you're only allowed to shove. So check would make some sense from a kind of GTO perspective. I think I'm leaning towards a shove though.
I can keep betting small. I can start checking.
How quickly did he call the turn?
I think against him, I just prefer to keep betting.
No, not that quick. I think they might have edited it a little bit then. So the argument for shoving would be a lot of his hands, like, you know, 10-9 suited might end up just shoving turn themselves. Would they end up bluffing the river themselves, or 10-9? You know, 10-9 of spades might not. 10-9 of hearts probably not in there. 10-9 of clubs would. 10-9 of diamonds would. What other hands are in there? You know, the other bluffs, he's got all his 5-6s. If they're not shoving, so he's got probably at least 2 combos of 5-6 suited, and then maybe throw in an extra one for when he mixes the other 2. Does he shove any of his 2 pairs? You know, if he's got ace-7 here, you know, if he's got 7-6 suited, no, he's just going to be checking them behind. So I think shove's good. I think shove's good. Check is terrible.
And now I think
apparently,
this is actually good
according
to check.
Well, you're saying 10 Nats Krusky. You're saying goose score is terrible.
Pocket jacks, which some people are not capable of. But yeah, let's try to play it for real.
Wait, what do you say?
Which some people. I just need him to still value bet pocket jacks, which some people are not capable of.
Yeah.
But
yeah, makes sense.
Let's try to play it for real.
I think most regs will shove jacks in. So I think if that's reasoning, that's a good assumption on his range. But I think that for me at least, I think that I'm just going to be shoving all of my value hands here. And not worrying about all these fucking blockers and whatnot. How thin do I shove? Maybe 9s?
Flush draws that check back, that's like blocking all his check back range. He has 8-7 suited. What the fuck?
What the fuck?
It's really not my section.
Not with that attitude.
For every 8-7 suited he has a 5-6 suited as well. So we can be sure that we get plenty of money in there good, but yeah. So let's focus on that here. We were 3-way on the flop. Small blind did call.
Alright, we got 3-way on the flop. 1 to call, 2 to raise. If we're raising, how much are we raising? So I think ignoring my creative idea of trying to lead the flop small, I think the only answer here is that we check call. Raising here, it's kind of turning a hand into a bluff, but you're actually not going to make any better hands fold. Yeah, even though you have a ton of equity against everything pretty much, it's still not good enough to raise.
Call as well. Facing that c-bet of super splashy Russian player.
Ooh, super splashy.
Obviously,
good to know. Makes it more of a call. So now we know what that label means, which is nice. Guys, 1 to fold, 2 to call, 3 to raise. What are you doing? 1 fold, 2 call, 3 raise. 2. Everyone else says 2. Yeah, 2. Good.
Call.
Good. No teaching here. Oh.
And yeah, another one. We don't catch our runouts today.
Nice that he tanked on the river there, not giving away any timing tells. Alright, he shoves. It's not, you can't really read into the timing of the other player here because we tanked, so he had time to think about whether he's going to shove. 1 to call. No, 1 to fold, sorry. 1 to fold, 2 to call. Get your answers out in the chat. 1 to fold, 2 to call. I'm pretty sure GTO is going to tell you to fold this. I'm going to go out on a fucking limb here and say GTO is almost definitely going to be telling you to fold it. But let's think from an exploit perspective here. What kind of bluffs has he got? He's got potentially all of his Jack 10. Definitely if he has a spade in it. How big did he bet? I don't think he's going to turn up with King 10. Unless it's specifically like King of Spades, 10 of Clubs. I don't think he's going to be overbetting the turn with that. Same with King Jack. I just don't really think it's too much of that. So his bluffs are really going to be a lot of Jack 10. If he decides to overbet turn with that, Jack 10 diamonds or whatever. What other bluffs has he got? I don't know. People tend not to bluff their missed clubs in these spots. If he's got something like King Jack of Clubs, he's probably just checking it. Yeah, Jack 8, I don't know. Overbetting the turn, it's very, very hard to just use a fucking random Jack 8 here. I don't think he would. I can't think of any other bluffs apart from Jack 10. And like the odds fucking like King of Spades, 10 of Clubs. Splashy Russian makes it definitely more enticing to call. No, I'm pretty sure you just meant to fold this. Like GTO is going to tell you to fold, Exploit is going to tell you to fold. How many value hands does he have is definitely a question you need to be asking. But if I'm him, I'm value shoving a set here. I'm value shoving pocket fives even, which gives me fives, sixes, maybe even fucking ace queen. I might even value shove ace queen. Maybe ace queen would be a bit loose, but if I'm me, I'm value shoving ace queen. I don't know if I'm him. If I've got a splashy Russian image, I might be value shoving ace queen. If he's value shoving as wide as ace queen, then this is going to be a disastrous call. If he's only value shoving a flush, which is possible because it is an overbet shove on the river, then this might be a call because he would have had to c-bet overbet turn with it. Which there aren't too many combos of it. There aren't too many combos of flushes that would do that. Is he going to value bet straight? I think he's going to value shove a straight and a set. My assumption is that he's going to be value shoving pretty wide. If he's not, then if he's literally only value betting a shove, and he's a splashy guy, I can definitely see an argument. Just from all the Jack 10s alone, it might even be enough combos of bluffs. But I think that if he's value shoving a set, which I believe he is, maybe even ace queen, then I think it's quite an easy fold.
It's very, 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 very tempting to call against that guy because he's just like not jamming thinly here. I have 9x and 6x of spades, pretty much all of them. And that means he needs to have a flush.
That doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. So obviously our flushes are basically all of the hands. Well, we also have a couple of others. We have King 10 of spades, King Jack of spades, 9x of spades, 6x of spades. It just feels like somebody's gonna shove wider than that. It just feels like it is. I'm not sure.
Or he's bluffing and he's like a freaking bluffing machine, having like Jack 10 with a spade, King Jack with a spade, King 10 with a spade.
See, I don't know if he's going to take those hands and bluff. I might be proven completely wrong here, but I don't know if he's going to just turn up with Jack 10 with the Jack of spades and no club in his hands and just overbet the turn here. I'm not sure about it. Or like maybe not Jack 10, maybe like King 10 with a King of spades. I don't know if he's going to overbet the turn there because it's hard to make much of our range fold on the turn. It's a very confusing spot because nobody knows what anyone's range is. It's very unsolved for how humans actually play. So with some assumptions that if he is really only value betting a flush, which I don't think is true, but if it is true, then I can see this being just call all of your bluff catches pretty much. But I don't think that's right. I think I'm just folding.
And I actually think I like a catch here without being tilted. Like I have big history with that guy and let's go crazy for once. Okay, he has the...
Yeah, all right. So we know he's value betting a straight, which means that we probably also know he's value betting a set as well, which is not too much of a stretch to say he might be value betting ace queen as well. So if a straight is in there, then Goose kind of got owned in this spot, which is like a weird own where like if you played these guys heads up or you know, they play 6 max. Goose is going to win more often than this guy for sure. But in this kind of spot, he value bet a hand that's like close. And he thought that he wasn't going to value bet these kind of hands. So it's like a kind of own there. It was interesting. That was definitely an interesting hand. It was, it's one of those things where you can be any poker player in the world and you don't know what this guy's range is going to be. So all you have to fall back on is your intuition and your intuition of what other people are going to be turning up with. And it's hard. It's hard to know how other people are going to be playing. And the only way to really do that is play a lot of poker and think a lot about poker. And solver value bets ace-5. Okay, so I assume that's a troll. Wait, are you sure solver value bets ace-5? Is that real or is that not? Intuition says overbet turn is value heavy. Mine too, actually. Mine too. I feel like it's very value heavy when he goes that size on the turn, because it just sucks if you get shoved on if you have some kind of bluff, like a high equity bluff.
The turn straight and goes for the thin value on the river.
All right, I'm gonna try and work out.
Really, that was a well thought through catch that I would do every time again. Actually, so not tilted.
It's 3 well on the flop.
When this is the guy who I caught insane bluffs, who has the most insane stats in the pool, and that's the guy, like that type of person who tries to 5-bet ace-8 suited and move you off pocket kings for 250 big blinds.
Oh, I love that. I love that kind of guy.
So if he sees that he has king-10 offsuit there on the turn with that spade, definitely following up. I'm not sure about his sizing, was maybe a little special, but yeah, a little fancy definitely. And until the next stream, I will stream next week for sure again. Not sure about tomorrow.
Should we do one of those? There was I think it's BTS, Bluff the Spot. Is that right? He did like rating people's play out of 10. Should we do that for each one of these? Or is that too personal, do you think? What do you think? You guys want to give your own ratings out of 10 and I'll work out if I should or not? I would take some coaching from Steffen. You know, I have a lot to learn from him. So I'm sure all of you guys would want that too. Goose gets 7 out of 10. Guys, get your answers out in the chat. Rate Goose's play out of 10. 10 being like if you're the fucking best super genius in the world, and 0 being if you're not. And yeah, so somewhere in between. Just from his play in this session, not compared to how he's actually played. So not compared to how good he is at poker. I'm going 9.3. I'm going 9.3. By the way, FU Shorty, very good answer. You're definitely not qualified to rate Goose's play, nor basically anyone in the chat, but we're going for it anyway, just for lols. I'm going 9.3. I think he played extraordinarily well. I think his thought process was really good. His assumptions was really good. He played hands differently to how I would, but it doesn't really matter, even if we have drastically different outcomes, because he's got his set of thought processes and his set of assumptions and presuppositions. I've got mine, and you know who's going to be better. Nobody fucking knows in these kind of spots. But as long as his assumptions then match on to his decisions, and his assumptions seem pretty fucking reasonable, then he's going to be playing great poker and he's going to be winning.